What is up? Jacob Rothenberg here, Senior SDR at Drata. And what I want to talk about today is how much do SDRs really make at their jobs? What should you be looking for with a comp plan that you're either going to pursue at a prospective role, or if you're interviewing around, what can you expect with a comp plan? What do you want to look out for? So I'll get right to it and just be very direct here. With regards to base salary, I've seen many different ranges with the SDR role in different companies, all different industries. The lowest I've ever seen for a USA-based SaaS role, the lowest base I've ever seen is around 40K. And the highest base that I have seen on Reddit and with other colleagues of mine in other companies is the highest base of 85K. Big discrepancy there, right? So while I think that you should be more so looking at the variable, the commission plan of your comp, base still important, right? It's a good safety net. You probably want to be able to cover your overhead and all personal expenses with your base salary so that you can budget that for survival and necessities and have your variable, your commission, cover your savings and your other expenditures. So what I will say with that in mind is that in this day and age, honestly, with just inflation, the higher cost of living, and just life overall, I would not settle for anything less than a 60K base for an entry-level SDR role. If you can get 65, 70, 85, great. That's a great base for an SDR plan. That being said, you really need to consider the variable. And that's what I want to talk about next, because for me, this is what's more important than just the base salary is how much can you really make by hitting quota, overachieving quota? Hey, is it even realistic to hit quota at an organization? So I guess I could go a few angles with this, but when you're interviewing for any SaaS role in the sales space, you need to be asking, what's the comp plan? Like, what's just the general variable, the OTE, and what percentage of SDRs or AEs even are hitting quota for the month, for the quarter. Now, I'll be honest with you, at a prior role a few years ago, I was told by a recruiter a certain percentage of reps were hitting quota, and in actuality, the number was much lower. So be sure to maybe speak with a manager at your prospective organization, maybe even connect with a colleague that's in your desired role, whether it's SDR or AE, and ask him or her for their candid view on how realistic is it to hit quota. And hopefully they're going to be very transparent with you on that. With the comp plan, it's not just so much about how much you can make with the variable pay towards quota, but how are you actually getting comped? How are you actually making that commission? Is it going to be with setting a meeting and just letting it go from there? Or are you going to be comped based on qualified deals? Does that mean you set a meeting and now that meeting needs to take place and it's now going to have to face certain criteria, benchmarks to qualify as a viable opportunity for your AE? Along with that, if it's either of them, how much are you making per meeting set? How much are you going to be making per opportunity qualified? With the close one, if a deal closes, do you get a cut of that? You get a percentage of that deal contract closing as commission? All things to consider. And there are just, I'll be very honest, I've just seen so many ways to trick out an OTE and other comp plans I've seen. Mine's the best in the world. But with other companies, there's just so many ways to game an OTE to where, yeah, we have a 500K OTE for you as an SDR, but we need you to qualify 50 meetings in a month. That's not realistic, right? Likewise, the OTE might be calculated or set up in a way where a large chunk of it relies on hitting a certain close one threshold that may not be realistic for your attainment in your organization. So let's say, I'm just making up numbers, but your OTE is determined by half of it coming from your close one. And let's say for whatever reason, because you're an SDR, you can't directly control close one. So if your AEs, if your team, from your deals can't close anything, well, you're not gonna hit at least half of your OTE because your variable was manipulated in a way for that. So you really need to study the comp plan and just make sure you're not getting finessed with that, because with a good comp plan, it's very honest, intelligently designed, and made fairly. Like at my organization, Drata, the best, I have a very generous comp plan that everyone else has. It's all under equal footing. And with our comp plan, everyone hitting quota is making over 6 figures. Likewise, I have already, year to date, I'm not talking about what I've qualified, what I've had closed into contracts. I'm talking about cash in the bank before taxes. I've cleared well over 100,000, and I'll be significantly over that by next month, and I am aiming for over 200 this year as an SDR, not as an AE, as an SDR. I am aiming to make more than what a lot of AEs at other organizations make as an SDR. I am not saying that just to brag. It is a little bit of bragging there, but for you, what you need to look at, is it even mathematically possible with a comp plan if you're overachieving quota, hitting accelerators? Hopefully there's accelerators in your comp plan for overachieving. And is it mathematically possible to hit 150K salary for the year, including base? Is it mathematically possible to overachieve and hit 200K in total comp? Things you want to know and things you need to know, especially if you're a killer like me that's obviously very money motivated and needs a degree of success financially to keep the party going, right? So that's very important. Now, likewise, with all of this, I would also advocate, if possible, and if it's to your liking especially, for a 100% remote role. Why is this? Well, it's just a fact, it's law, that higher salary SDR roles are likely going to be at organizations headquartered at major cities, whether it's San Francisco, in the Silicon Valley, in New York, in Southern California, maybe even Texas. Those cities are going to be able to command candidates in their local area with a higher salary, but likewise with a 100% remote role, within reason. If you're within the United States, it doesn't matter if you're residing in Alabama, you can still apply and get a role from something based out of San Francisco, out of San Diego, out of New York, if it's 100% remote. Now, there's 2 caveats to that, one of them being obvious. Lower cost of living if you're somewhere a little bit away from the major cities. I myself am in Vegas, and despite me living a life of absolute luxury and opulence, believe it or not, my rent is actually among the cheapest of my peers compared to Californians, where I'm originally from, which is why I'm here. So that's something that you want to be able to arbitrage with regards to your geography and who you're going to be working for. Likewise, the second point that's immediately not so obvious with the remote role, you don't need to commute to work. Now, there's an obvious time savings to that, but secondly, you've also got the privilege with not having to drive is having to not spend so much money on gas. Now, or I guess with electricity too, if you're driving a Tesla or whatever. I drive a hybrid. I'm not anti-electric. Anyway, especially right now, you don't want to be paying, $5 to $7 per gallon of gas and having to blow $15 or $20 a day just for your commute. That's going to add up in savings if you're working fully remote, and that's something that I'm very grateful for, along with being able to conserve the mileage of my car, especially if I plan to upgrade to a Ferrari California convertible GT next year. I want to be able to depreciate it less quickly and blow my money less quickly in that regard. Likewise, at previous roles, I've had them to where coworkers, because they've been living far away and having to work in an office, have to spend money on like lunch outside every day and whatnot. They don't have the discipline or the time to prep meals. That's also going to eat away at your savings. With a 100% remote job, you can shop at Costco, Vons, Whole Foods, Sprouts, Walmart, wherever. And if you're smart about it, spend wisely at the grocery store, be able to eat your meals at home, and hopefully eating healthier and yet saving money because you're working 100% remote. So I feel that's important too, with just controlling your personal finances. Last thing, and this is not directly tied to comp and your pay, but you're also wanting to look at opportunity for promotion, because the way that it is designed, usually, not always, usually, the SDR role is not meant to be a lifer role unless you're absolutely a sociopath and psychotic like me. You are wanting to ideally, provided that you hit quota and that you're studying hard and you're learning your product, be able to promote out, I would say, and it's not a good thing to promote too quickly, but that's another topic. At the soonest, I would say 9 months. Maybe for others, 12 to 16 months out of an SDR role to other roles. It doesn't necessarily mean having to be an AE, but regardless, okay, you're going to be making this much as an SDR. Ideally, a year or two from now at the most, you want to be making more in another role. So what does that long-term prospectus look like for you? Will that long-term prospectus include stock options? Even if you're in a role as an SDR that's not going to immediately grant you stock options, maybe yours will, maybe yours has, but is there an option for shares with the promotion? If you already have shares, is there an option for significantly more shares with a promotion? Something to consider. Now, of course, stock options can be absolutely worthless if certain things happen, and everyone has a chance of going bust. Likewise, you can get lucky and have your organization sell out and or IPO, and you become more rich, or at least you have more money in the bank. So that's all to consider as well. Now, of course, I'm a senior SDR. I do make more with my comp with regards to base as opposed to a regular SDR, but still, I don't think that needs to be factored really when you're looking into an SDR role at a new company. You want to be thinking SDR to AE, sales engineer, enablement, maybe even CS, maybe something else, and see what options you have with your long-term viewpoint for your career. So that's about it, guys. It is Saturday night. Just finished watching UFC. I've been out the whole day. Let me know what you think in the comments. Leave a like, share, dislike it, flame me, whatever. It's all good. And I will see you later. Take care.